Let's get started. All right, so my name is Zsombor Rajki. I work at Supercharge as a mobile developer, and I worked on Budapest Go during the main development, a bit on the maintaining phase. So I'm going to be talking about widgets in general and Budapest Go's widgets, how they work. But this is what we'll learn today. We'll go through the basics, what WidgetKit is. Let's just remind everyone what a widget is. We'll go through the static widgets, the configurable widgets, and how the last part will be a bit technical, how these widgets refresh, what the life cycle looks like. That's going to be for today. And let's just, go through the basic, because even though you might be iOS developers, WidgetKit is a fairly, I guess, not very widely used feature of iOS. So let's just, go through the basics, what a widget is. Let's refresh everyone's mind. And some generic information. It's available to us from iOS 14, and it's a brand new home screen experience Apple designed for us. And it's written in stateless Swift UI, very cool framework. And we have multiple sizes, types available to us. So it's very cool and very unique experience we have. And just to baseline, we don't make widgets to make mini standalone applications. We make widgets to be quick, glanceable components. So these are not like tiny applications live on your home screen. These are extensions you use for your main application. And for those who are visual types, let's just look at some widgets we have in production. On the left side, you see two large widgets. The first one on the top is Apollo's widget. And this is like a news where you can see posts and links. And Apollo is a very cool application to look at some widget examples, because they did a ton of widgets. So they have a very wide variety of widgets. So if you are looking for inspiration, a very cool application to check out. And you are below that, you see a weather widget, iDőkép, which is Hungary's most popular widget. I did that in the past. Not perfect, but a very cool widget overall. On the middle, you see stock widget, Apple's official stock widget. You see Gmail on the middle, and our own Budapest Go. So that we'll be talking in detail. And on the right side, you see the official weather widget and a prototype Budapest Go widget that did not go into production. So that's just a fancy little widget. We can take a look. And if we go through the next slide, from iOS 16, we have brand new widget sizes available to us on the home screen, which is very cool if you have a very expensive, always-on display iPhone. So these widgets are available to you without the need to open your application. So on the green, you see rectangular widgets. You see circulars with the yellow indicator. And on the top, at the top, you can see inline widgets, which are very basic text-based widgets. And these work the same way as the small widget. So if I jump back one slide, these widgets differ in terms of functionality, where you can have multiple buttons, deep links on your medium and large widgets, but the small widgets only offer one deep link in your application. So it's a very important distinction between these sizes. And these lock screen widgets have the same functionality, so only one interaction is possible. When you tap on them, you will be deep linked into the application. For example, in this case, you have a calendar widget, and if you tap on that, you will be navigated to the calendar app and open up that exact meeting, right? How cool is that? I think very cool. And let's go through Budapest Go. I'm going to showcase you guys what we did with Budapest Go. The reason is that if we combine the two widgets we made, we cover a large chunk of WidgetKit as a whole, what it's capable of in terms of functionality. So we won't cover very fancy UIs, you can do very cool things, but in terms of functionality, we covered a large portion of WidgetKit. So let's jump into it. Why we wanted to make widgets, you might ask? Well, let's imagine ourselves exiting the metro. And you're going up the elevator, you hear the announcement that you need to prepare your passes and your tickets, and you know, whip up your phone because you're embracing the digital future, and you have a digital product purchased, of course, and you whip up the phone and you try to search for Budapest Go. Oh, where is it? Okay, I'm going to open that one up. I'm going to navigate to the tickets tab, and this repetitive task that we wanted to mitigate, right? Where you, every time you open up application, you go to the tickets, you search for your product, and this can be very easily shortcutted by a deep link, especially easily to do with a widget, where, you know, it's very noticeable, this widget on your home screen. You won't miss up if you swipe between tabs, and you see the Budapest Go widget is very large, chunky. We'll see some pictures, and you can easily showcase your product. And that was the main issue we wanted to solve with Budapest Go. And, you know, we'll cover an interesting fact where you might want to put multiple products on your home page. We'll get back to that, but, you know, first, what was the beginning, what was the origin story of Budapest Go? On the right side, on the top, you see a widget itself, which is basically the same what we had in Figma design, so we didn't deviate much from the original plans we had. And on the bottom right, you see an in-app product selector, where you can switch between products easily. You can select which product you want to show on your widget on the right on the home screen. Right, very basic, and these buttons act as deep links, so it's essentially, that's the only interaction you can do with widgets. Almost all widgets that have buttons, and, you know, that's the technical limitation, still very useful. And the glanceable information in our case is the expiration date for your product and the name of your product. And that was basically it. And just a fun fact, it's not possible to make the rest of the widget not tappable. So if I tap on the name of the product, the app will open up, and we can't really do that, can't really prevent that interaction. Android guys could do that, and we had tiny confusion what's possible with iOS and what's not. So it's an interesting fact. But let's jump into some tools that we used building with these widgets. First of all, you should use Xcode previews, and you can actually make the preview work, because some of you guys may have worked with larger Swift UI code bases, and it tends to, you know, mess up a bit, doesn't work, third-party libraries might, you know, mess it up. But in terms of widget, it's a so well-isolated tiny component that you can make this Xcode preview work. And this basically showcases what you do on the UI in real time, right? So you increase the font size will be shown to you during development. Very useful tool to have, and you can even switch between sizes easily. If for those who are in the back and can't see, there are 3 switches at the top, and you can easily switch between sizes when you're working with multiple widgets. Very cool. And other important thing to mention is how these widgets work, what do they show, how do they work. On the right side, you see a widget selector, which is initially shown to the user when you add the new widgets on your home screen. And it's important to build out fast and easily accessible data between your host application and a widget. And the reason is we have full working widgets in the preview already. And the reason I'm highlighting this, you could have like a weather widget or a news widget that works off API services where you need some sort of data. And at this point, it's a really bad practice to put full working widgets that rely on API data. So the best use case, the best solution is to use cached data from your bridge you built between the application and the widget. So these tools that I told you, it's very important to build a bridge between your application and the widget, because you want really fast data here. And you don't want to ruin the widget experience from the get-go, right? So you want the best experience from the start. So you don't want to wait on API calls and whatnot. And the story could end here. Basically, we had a business need that we needed widgets. We had an in-app selector. It was working fairly good, right? And the story could end here if we didn't want to overachieve. And this is where the configurable widget came to life. And this is essentially the same widget we've just seen, with an exception that it doesn't rely on an in-app selector. If I go back a couple of slides here to this in-app selector you see on the bottom right, well, this in-app selector could be replaced altogether with the Siri intent. And the Siri intent could be read from the widget, and the widget on its own will know which product it uses. So I don't have to pass data between the host application. I can configure the product I want to use right on the widget. I bought you guys a real quick video how it works, but you can try it out yourself. If you have Budapest Go installed, feel free to try it out. It has basically the same functionality. It has a list. You select the product you want to use, and that product will be on the home screen, right? Very cool. And why did I build this? I wanted a more iOS experience, right? You don't want to rely on all these in-app selectors. We have tools for that built in from the Apple. So you want to use Apple's tools. That's your goal, to make the application the best for the iOS lifestyle, I guess. And this configurable widget actually solves that problem I highlighted before, where you might want to use multiple products like this on your home screen. Let's say you're traveling between Budapest and Szeged often. You have a Budapest pass for Budapest, obviously, and you have some single-use tickets for Szeged. How cool is that, that you can have both of them right on your home screen? Maybe you have a dedicated tab for your products, and it's very usable and cool experience, I think. And, try to make my case for this, the only widget we had. I tried to, showcase how cool it is, very iOS-like. I did not succeed. So what shipped with Budapest Go? Well, we had both of these widgets, right? And what's better than one type of widget? Two types of widget, right? And very cool. And I think these two widgets combined cover a large chunk of functionality what WidgetKit offers. So if you combine these, basically all the rest of the widget will work like this. And my goal was to maybe inspire you guys. Maybe you have an idea what a widget might look like in your application. Maybe you can even make a working prototype like I did, right? So I did with the configurable widget. It wasn't like a business need. I just made a working prototype and it ended up shipping. So showcasing fully working products is very important if you want to stand out, if you want to make the product better. And this is when a bit technical part of the presentation will start. We'll go through how this widget refresh. That's the only unique and interesting development time I spent. So most of it was very straightforward, but how these widgets refresh is very unique, and I think it's very important to showcase. I brought you guys a fairly long video where we go through a brand new product. We purchased the new Budapest Pass. We looked at the in-app selector. But you might notice something weird. For those who see, we have countdown timers on the widgets. Both widgets showcasing the same product I just purchased, and it's counting down. We have a countdown timer on the bottom left, and this might go against the notion that stateless Swift UI is the framework we write that in. For those who were familiar, statefulness means like it's constantly updating. And I told you guys that we write this in stateless Swift UI. And here you see like basically a stateful, fully refresh interaction, right? And it's counting down from 2 minutes. That's a Budapest Go business rule where you purchase a new product. It won't be usable just yet. You need to wait 2 minutes for it to go live and be usable. and you can refund that in this time period. So that's a standard functionality with all these Hungarian products. And the initial Figma designs had these timers on the widget, but we did not ship with these timers. The one reason was the Android guys did not want to make this. It was very bad practice to refresh this widget every time. That was their only solution. So it's feasible, but not very good practice. And we'll see why we didn't make this. The timer is currently at 2 seconds, 1 second, 0, and it started to count up. Okay, what's going on there, right? Did I mess up the code? No. Well, let's go through the whole life cycle, and I'm going to explain you guys what the issue was right here. So these widgets do not refresh every second. So what you see with the timer, it was a relative timer to a given timestamp in the future. So this is the state you saw with the timer. It was counting down on the top right. And this is the state it's counting down to. So when my product will be usable, it's indicated by this purple scan button. And this is the state I want to achieve 2 minutes in the future. And you see a gray area here, which is fairly accurate coloring, because in terms of Apple API, it's a gray area when this refresh happens. So even though I tell the widget 2 minutes in the future that I want to refresh it, I want to show this exact state on the bottom, the system might decide that we just recently refreshed this widget. I don't want to strain the user's mobile phone, and it might delay it with 9 seconds. It might delay it with 1 minute. So in our use case, where we have to refresh the widget very frequently, very in the near future, 2 minutes after that, we can't really do a reliable timer. And this is why we see the counter started to count up, and it looked really weird. It wouldn't make much sense to do that in a business perspective, right? Like, how weird is that? My countdown timer is counting up. Not sure what's up with that. And we do have 2 more states. We have a near expiry state, and we have a state where our product is expired. So basically, our idea, our goal is to predict the future with widgets. I'm like a future teller, where I want to know how this widget will look like in the future. And I can do this very accurately with a larger distance, larger time, where I have a widget that's going to be refreshed a day from now. And I can't do that with a 2-minute timer. That's why the demonstration was the way it is. So we had a weird timer like that. And I'm basically building up these future timelines, how my widget's going to look like in the future. And all the states you see here, all these states will be put into my box. So I will have these 4 states at the time of the purchase. Even though I see this state with the countdown timer, I will have all these states in the timeline. And once we, go through time as how we perceive it, right? Then we'll see the different states slowly update itself. Let's say I purchase a daily product, which works for 24 hours. I leave my phone there for 24 hours, and it's slowly going through all these states without the need to open the application. So I don't have to refresh anything, don't have to make API calls. It's going to work like that. Now, you might ask, okay, but I'm making a weather app. I'm not going to know these states in the future, right? So I don't know when I should be refreshing. Well, in that case, you're in luck, because you don't actually have to deal with all this. You can forget about all this. You can just set a 15-time interval, and your widget will be refreshed. The API call is going to happen, and you'll have the most up-to-date weather widget. You just set a fixed date interval between these refreshes, and you're good to go. And it's not like a dumbed-down version. This is your use case, and that's a valid use case. So This is basically how we did it. It's one implementation, and the 15-minute refresh is a valid implementation as well. And okay, we had a problem before, right? But we have the wrong timer. What was our solution? We just put a date there when your product will be live. And even though the widget might be delayed by 1 minute, the user won't notice any weird behavior. So you might have a use case where it's at noon and your widget tells you that your product is usable, but it won't be the countdown timer counting up. So that was our solution, to put a fixed date there, and we solved this gray area issue what Apple had for us. And yeah, be mindful of widgets limitation, right? So you can't really do anything with widgets. Yeah, with that, we basically covered what widget is. We went through these implementations we did with Budapest Go. We looked at how these widgets refresh. And I really don't want to make this, but if I really downbeat down what widget is basically just a fancy deep link collection, right? So you have useful data in there with some buttons that are deep links, and that's basically what a widget is. So you can extract the component from your application to the home screen, and you're good to go. And yeah, make widgets on your own. I think it's important to make this like a requirement, where it's currently a standout feature, widgets are, and I'd like widget to be a requirement where you're actually asking for them. I think working on this is very cool, very useful, widgets are, and yeah, my goal would be all applications to have widgets, not banking applications, but yeah, and our goal was to make great products. Both of these widgets went live, and many people use it, and I think widgets are a great thing, and thank you for your attention.